Greetings. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about spells. That's right, spells, as in witchcraft, as in spellcasting. Just the very word spells seems to conjure up a lot of emotions for a lot of people. If you are somebody who is afraid of witches, who would do what they could do to drive a witch out of the neighborhood or out of the community or out of the workplace, it is probably because you fear that the witch is going to do something, to cast some kind of spell and either harm you or your family, or conjure up the devil and or eat your baby. I'm not sure. Something like that. I mean, we don't fear witches. When we think of the, historically, the term witch was a healer, somebody who used, herbs and flowers that she grew to heal the sick, to heal wounds, right? Not to cause harm, The fear rose. This fear came from a lot of different places, but in today's world, it comes basically from television or from movies, because no one wants to see about a movie about a witch who just heals people, makes people feel good, helps you find a job. That's not really what witchcraft, that doesn't sell. Okay. But contrary to your opinion, and I've said, just public opinion, and I've said this in the past, witches we're not sitting there in trees just casting spells and throwing hexes and curses at people that pass by. As a matter of fact, we don't even do this in our daily practice, most of us. Not so much. It's not a major part of our day. I mean, we might do a little bit of daily practice in it, but we don't maintenance of spells and things. But we don't just sit around going, what can I do now? What spell can I cast now? That's not what we do. I want to take a little bit of the mystery out of spells, but I also want to say that it's for those of you who are aspiring to become witches or are very new in your practice of witchcraft. I want to ease your mind a little bit about it, because it seems like something that, oh my goodness, when am I going to ever attain this level of being a witch that I'm going to be able to cast spells? Well, you could do that now. Like, anybody can do that now. What is a spell? In order for us to understand today's subject, we need to first of all define, what do we mean by spells? What do we mean when we say spell? A spell, at its very core, is combination of words and or actions, that we do, that we speak, or we do, that we make for a particular effect. That's it. Okay, that's no different than making yourself a cup of tea and drinking it when you want to relax. There's really not that much difference between doing that and making some kind of a potion of herbs and spices, whatever, to achieve an effect. In the case of tea, it's help you relax, or just to comfort you, or sometimes we do it to warm ourselves from a chill, ease ourselves into sleep. There's a lot of reasons that we drink tea, and we don't find anything wrong with that, do we? But as soon as we start putting the word spell on it or potion on it, all of a sudden it becomes like mysterious and scary to a lot of people. If you are going to look up spells, witchcraft spells, either in books or on the internet, you're going to find a big long list of spells, usually those that are for sale. If you send, $7.95, you're going to get, here's a little healing spell or whatever, or $29.95 or whatever it is you do. People sell spells. Well, I don't sell spells. Let's get that clear right now. I will not sell you a spell. I will teach you how to make a spell. I will teach you how I do a spell, but you do it your way. I might sell you the items that you might not be able to locate that you need to make a certain spell. I will do that, but I will not sell a spell. That's something that comes from you, and it comes from your intention. No matter what we call it, it doesn't matter so much what we use to come about the end. It is a matter of your intention. And I've said that, you've heard me say that so many times before. It really is. That is the key. If I had to give you one magical piece, one freebie of magic, it is 100% intention. You can put together, put together oils and spices and colored candles and incenses and all day, every day of the week. Okay? By the waning moon, by the waxing moon, it doesn't matter. If you don't have your intention there, you don't create magic. Your intention is 100%. The other things are there to enhance. Now, the other thing I want to point out to you is that spells can be both positive and negative. Now, I know we have used some words in the past here that a lot of people might think of as negative, okay? But first I want to say, what I mean by negative is we usually don't call a spell a negative thing. We usually say if it's a negative spell, it's usually called a hex, or it's called a curse, okay? There's usually not any good hexes or good curses that I can think of. They don't fall under that category. So if it's something that is, you mean to cause ill upon somebody, that is either a curse or it is a hex. We're not talking about those things today. We're talking about spells that are not going to harm, because that's the kind of spells that I do, okay? And I know there's some confusion there, because I know you have seen me, those of you who have watched most of my videos have seen me do some spells that often are classified as, black magic or harmful spells. And one of those, I will say right up front, is binding. I do binding spells. I do binding spells not all the time. It's not my daily routine. But I have been known to do binding spells from time to time. And I have done a few binding spells here on my YouTube channel. And I can link to one of those below for an example. What I mean by a binding spell, when I do a binding spell, is I use it to prevent somebody from doing an action that is harmful to either themselves or to me or to somebody else, okay? To others, okay? I wanted I'm going to take back what I just said about harming themselves, because I wouldn't necessarily, I would think about it. What is my opinion on that? I'm thinking of somebody who is severely involved in an addiction, for instance, and I want to change the addiction. That would be an instance where you'd think it would be fine to put a binding spell on that person. But for me, I don't like to use spells on anybody that affects another person's free will or freedom to do what they do. I would really want, rather than putting a binding spell on somebody to keep them from the behavior that is causing problems, I would rather put a protection, and I would put a healing spell for them to try to get them to healed, whatever is causing their addiction, be healed, and also to a protection for the people around them to keep from harm because of the addiction, rather than trying to change that person's behavior, if that makes any sense to you, because I don't think it is within my right to try to change another person's action, to interfere with their free will to do whatever they do. But I can damn well protect myself from it, and damn well protect other people from harm from it as well. That's an entirely different thing, if that makes sense. Okay. I have the spells that I have put up before on binding. I didn't, I had some people that harmed me. At several instances, people harmed me. And one I'm thinking of particularly was horrific people spreading lies that were very damaging about me, that were affecting my reputation, maybe within the community of witches where I live, and among friends that I had made in that community. And the behavior was it was based on just lies and manipulation on the part of these people. Now, I didn't curse them. I didn't put a binding spell on them to hurt them. They still were free to do whatever they do, except I did put a binding to say, to stop them from involving me, to stop them from involving me. So it was basically a protection on myself, but it was a spell that they could not harm me with their words. They could not spread their words. It would not harm me. It would either fall on deaf ears, or it would be, not believed or whatever, or not noticed, whatever. It was just let it die out and not let it grow. That kind of a thing. So there's a difference between putting a spell to bind somebody and restrict them in some way, and to bind them from doing a behavior to bind the behavior that is harmful to other people, if that makes sense. Okay, we're talking semantics here. I can't. Everybody's going to have their own idea about that, and that's fine. But I just want to make clear that from me, you're not going to get hexes, curses. I'm not going to teach you how to do any of those things. It's up to you to figure it out if you want to do it, but I want to say that most people have a pretty strong feeling about being careful what you put out, what you send, what energies you send. You might have heard of the threefold law, or the law of three, where it says whatever you send out will come back to you threefold. So if you send out harm, you can be harmed. You can feel harm. If you send rage, you will receive rage in some way against you. Or, a lot of people believe that. I don't necessarily ascribe to the threefold law, but I do believe very strongly that energy is energy. And if I am spewing negative energy and increasing the negativity around me, I'm going to draw negativity in return. Okay. And I will say the same goes for if I put out positive energy around me, in likely manner, I should draw positive energy in return. So that's what I try to do. I try to do things positively. I try to do more protection, preventing danger from coming to me, but sending out good, sending out kindness and goodness and healing and protection and love. There's a lot of kinds of things. Growing things, growing prosperity, growing fertility, cleansing, doing those kind of acts rather than banishing, binding, hexes, curses. You see my point? I try to accentuate the positive because I want to attract positive energies around me and my magic. Okay, we talked about the what of spells. What are spells? What makes a spell? But I promised you in the title of this video the when and why of spell work as well. And I think maybe that is probably one of the most important points that I want to get across to you. I gave you a little teaser in the beginning and said that we witches don't sit up in trees and just put, cast spells on people, everybody walking underneath the tree. That's very true. And I would say that I would not think casting a spell should be your first reaction to any given situation. It's not my first reaction to any given situation. For instance, I'll give you a good example. Let's say you're looking for a job. You need a job. What is the first thing that you should do when you want to get a job, when you want to try to put yourself, to describe to a potential employer what you have to offer them as an employee, as perhaps a future employee? Okay, don't you think that they want to know what your qualifications are? So you go through the process. You should go through the process of going through your history and telling them your background and putting yourself in your best light. That's what you do, right? You make a resume. You put yourself in your best light. You maybe would, for an interview, maybe you look the part that you think they want you to look like. If it's a business, an office situation, you want to dress appropriately for that, or whatever it is that you're trying to apply for. Your first action should not be to cast a spell to get the job. That's not appropriate. It's not appropriate in so many ways. And one of maybe the basic way it's not appropriate is perhaps you go, oh, I really like to have that job. That pays X number of dollars, a week, and I could really use that. So I'm going to put a spell out there to get that job. Well, you need to be able to do the job. Getting the job is not the point. Matching yourself up with a job that you can do and do well. That's the point. So you would not just cast a spell in any way to get a job that that you don't deserve to have. That would be foolish on your part. It's also very foolish on your part to think that just by casting a spell you're going to convince somebody to hire you on a job. Okay? It's not mind control, people. This is not mind control. If we could do that, boy, wouldn't we have a wonderful world? If we could just, control everybody. You are in Sing Sing, right? That reminds me of the Three Stooges. No. It's not about that. It is about doing everything within your power. Okay, doing everything within your power to ensure that you have the outcome you want. So you want to do all of these other things about your homework and things about applying for the right jobs, making sure you're prepared for the right jobs, etc. But there's nothing wrong with doing a spell or having a little altar in your home where you do have a little prosperity altar that that helps you, that gives you adds some energy to your attempts at finding a job, to add a little bit to it, to ensure that you're going to get what you need, that you're going to be matching with something that's going to help you with getting the salary that you need, or doing your best, just giving your best self, putting yourself forward in the best potential way. I like to think of a spell sitting on an altar over a period of time that way as something that is sort of keeping your intention alive, whatever your intention is. And I think I spoke a little bit about that. I'm going to link to a few videos below this video in the description, some of my older videos that I sort of address certain things. And one I remember that I had a comparison between candles in a church. You go into a church and all the candles are lit. And how, the idea that as long as that candle, you go into church and you light a candle, and the idea always was, as long as that candle was lit, your prayer was still your petition was still there. It's the same thing on an altar. If you're going to have an altar and you light a candle as a part of your spell, as long as that is there, the intention is there. It strengthens your intention. So that's one of the reasons that we do a number of different things when we do a spell. We don't just light a candle. We might use incense. We might use special words. We might use special oils. We add elements to the spell itself to increase the likelihood of a success. So, by adding things to our spell, like certain kinds of candles, certain kinds of incense, maybe some charms or whatever we use as well, we are increasing the likelihood of the spell's success. That's usually what we're talking about when we talk about a spell. A spell is a little more than intention, because a spell involves not just the words, first of all the intention, but the spoken word of the intention, things to help amplify the intention that is being put forth in the guise of your incense, your candles, maybe a certain kind of candle, maybe the oil that you put on your candle, maybe how many times you revisit the spell and give it more energy, put more energy, renewed energy into that same spell. That's what I call feeding a spell. Keep feeding it as it needs fed. Okay. That's what makes a spell. That's a little different from just the intention. Your intention should be fine, like I'm going to get a good job. That's fine. That's your intention. I'm determined I'm going to get a good job. But the spell is the words, the actions that you do to help manifest your intention. Hope that's clear. I hope it's clear. So as you can see, it should not always be your first response to anything you want is making a spell. Okay, but it is something. If you're looking for something, let's say, when do you know when to use spells and when not to use spells? If it is something that you cannot handle just on your own, using willpower or whatever, or it's like for instance, I've been looking for work for 3 months and I just can't seem to get a job, and I'm starting to lose my self-esteem. I'm starting to lose my my confidence, those kind of things. You need some help. And what kind of help do you need? You need a spell. That's when I would turn to a spell and I would say, I would keep a table and I would keep like a little space, and I'm going to show you in this video how much you need. You don't need much. And I would, to state my intention and to keep my intention going, keeping that manifest, the desire to manifest an intention, keeping that going instead of, oh, I'm so sick of looking for a job. If you're just dependent on your will or your, efforts, you burn out pretty fast. But if you have a place that you can set this spell to help you, okay, and you can feed it daily or however often you need to feed it, keep it going, keeping that energy going. It also increases your confidence. It gives you the desire and the strength really to keep it going. Then I would use a spell. You have seen me before use things like I use spells when I get new tools. I always consecrate my tools. If I'm going to use them magically, they're consecrated, and I'm going to link below to a video that shows you a simple way you can do it. You don't need much. So in that case, I would always use a spell. Okay. I always use protection spells around my home and around my pets, okay, and my family. I have done lots of videos on that before, and I've told you why. So those are spells that are set in the form of charms or talismans where I enchant, I put the spell, transfer my spell into a little bag, for instance, which is hung by my door or hung on my chicken coop or hung, where I put it. That is the spell. It is held, and that intention is held within that bag, just like on an altar, your prosperity altar. Okay. If I'm going to do a poppet, something like that, a binding spell, that's something that I usually hide away, but the magic is still there. I will link below. I did a binding with using a poppet, I believe. One time I think I filmed that. I will look for that and put that up there. That was a binding that I did, and it's buried. And as long as that poppet remains there, the spell is still an active spell. Eventually, it will biodegrade and it'll be gone. Eventually, it might even get, uprooted in some way from somebody digging or whatever. Then it will be gone. But right now, it's still there. Like, I think the need for it is not there. I think that's pretty well past. But it's still there. It's still there. It's still working. Now today I'm going to do a little bit of, just before we show, I'm going to show you first of all 2 things for you. Just 2 little quick things. First of all, I'm going to show you my spell table that I call my spell table because there's a reason behind that. And then I'm going to show you a little healing spell that I like to do, which is one of those spells that I do all the time for either animals or for people. And this is not normally where I do them, but I'm going to set up a little space to show you how you can do it anywhere. But before I get any further into this, I want to say I was doing a little bit of looking around, and seeing what I could find out what others have said on spells, etc. And I came across rules of spellcasting, which were offered by someone. Her name is Cassandra Latham, who, interestingly, in 1996, she became the first person in the UK to register her occupation as village witch, which I thought was really kind of cute. But anyway, she's a well-known witch, obviously now in England. And but she had her rules that she said. The first rule, and I wrote them down because I thought it'd be interesting. The first one says, she says, don't dabble but do persist. The reason I think she says don't dabble but do persist is I know for a fact the more you do, the more spells that you, we don't have to do them every day, but the more comfortable you are with doing spells, the more comfortable you are with setting your intention, the more success that you will see. You will also know, you will get a good sense of timing of how long you need to do it. You know, people ask me all the time, well, how many days do I have to do it? You know, you're going to get a feel for that yourself. It's not up for me to tell you something about your spell. You know, if you feel like you need to do it longer, do it longer. If you feel like that was good, that was good. You know, it depends on what the spell is about. But she says also, do not start anything you don't finish, which is a really important thing. You need to do that. You need to be, you know, if you're going to start to set up a spell, and you're going to do one of those like spell candles that it has so many days, you light it, everything. If that's your intention when you begin it, you be sure that you follow that and you do it every day or however long you set it up for, it was set up for in the first place. Okay. But also you have to see it through. Once you start that action, you have to see the action through. And that's pretty much a life rule, not just, not just spells. Be aware that anything you wish for in another person may come back to you. We've already touched on that. Be precise. And finally she says, be precise. Don't just ask for money, because your nearest and dearest might drop dead, leaving you an inheritance. We kind of said that in jest a while back, a couple of times in videos. But that's really true. You have to say exactly what you want. Say exactly what you want. And that's where you take a little bit of time with your intention. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera because first I want to show you my spell table. And then I'm going to set up a little healing spell and just give you a very, very simple spell. If you're new to it, let's start small. And just, don't start and do a binding spell as your first spell. Do something small. But healing spell, and we're going to do a healing spell. And I want to say, don't, dismiss the importance of a healing spell. It doesn't have to be a big thing with lots of smoke and lots of, crazy music and drums and to work. That doesn't have to happen. It's remember, it's your intention. Okay, I wanted to show you where we are because I'm always pointing over to the other side of the room. This is the chair where I usually sit when I do my recording in this room, and there's my cupboard beside. And then I want to come across this. When I talk about my spell table, this is what I'm talking about. It is a table, as you can see. It's a table. This is a table that I took out of my kitchen. My husband and my father built this for me one Thanksgiving. And there's Senor Bruja sitting on top of my boxes. And here's as you can see, it's not a very big table to start out with. It's a small table. But the fascinating thing about the table is, there's my cupboard above, is this area here in the front of the table, on the cloth here, I think there's only something like 15 inches from the edge of the table back to the cupboard. And this space that is clear, the clear area, I think is around 20 inches. So we're talking about a very small space. And when I set spells on this table, this is where I set them, in this space. I will put tiles out, or I will put you put things out on tiles, or I will put things out on, in a cauldron. I'll burn a candle in a cauldron, and put some things to represent the elements. I'll do a lot of different things here. But basically, as a matter of fact, I think you might be able to see my big cauldron underneath there, beside the mortar and pestle. To the right of it is one of my cauldrons that I set out here often. I burn a candle in there. But anyway, I just wanted to show you this is a very small space. And my cupboard above, one of my cupboards above, just kind of overflowing. I could open that door and show you what's out the door. Let me see. There you go. You get a pretty good idea. It's just a lot of stuff, right? A lot of stuff in there. And this is just one of my cupboards. But anyway, so I have a lot of stuff. So this is how much room I have for my spells. But then what I like about it is I can set things on here. Nobody can bother it, and I can either, keep relighting it and nobody bothers it during the course of the spell, or if in the case of a container that's in a candle, or a candle that's in a cauldron full of sand, I can let that burn as long as I'm in the house. I don't have to be attending to it. And it's not going to be disturbed by cats or anybody else. Okay, so I'm going to set out a really small, what I would set up for a healing ritual. And I will show you something I would do for a healing spell. I hope you can see my setup here. I have put a white doily here on my black cloth. It helps you see a little better, but also I like to remember I said create a sacred space, and this space is defined for the spell itself. And I have some, here I have an altar stone, a pentacle here. This is just a candle I lit for a working candle, which I'll tell you why in a minute. I have an amethyst and citrine and tiger's eye gemstones. Here I have a bracelet I made for another spell that I did for my cats. I think maybe a year ago, which has amethyst and turquoise, good for altar. And here's this healing candle that I made recently in my candle making video. This one I have the healing prayer on here, which reads, "O great goddess, mother of mercy and healing, send the energy of Hygeia to nourish from her sacred bowl. Send the energy of Brigid to heal with waters of her sacred well. Send the energy of Demeter to restore life to withering cells. Send the energy of Kuan Yin to bless the healing with peace. Send your healing wisdom to the body to restore the sacred balance. Thank you, great goddess, mother of all life." And I have a little turquoise and a goddess charm. I showed you that before, but that's simply that. And this is the kind of thing that I would set up, normally on my healing altar out in the sun porch, and I could let this candle burn there. And of course I would extinguish it at night, and then I would light it again the next day, as long as I wanted the prayer to last. And that's why I used a healing, a working candle here, just as a tea light, a long handle, because as this burns down, as it gets down further and further, it's going to be more difficult to light. And I really do not I absolutely abhor lighting things with a lighter. Magickal Spells, I do. We use them in the coven. I really hate them. It's my personal practice usually to use a working candle where I light candles from. But, I understand that that's what some people use. That's fine. But anyway, this is just a simple setup that I would have for a healing altar. This instance is a general healing candle. And here I have some things that I might use, because I'm going to say today, I'm going to set up a healing prayer for my cats. My cats are suffering somewhat distressed. They've been quarantined with everybody else all this time, and now all of a sudden when these strangers are coming into the house that they didn't even know who they were, and coming into their space and in big amounts, and it's stressful for them. And also three of them in particular are really getting older and suffering some health problems as well. And then the two younger ones, the one you saw just the other day, Fezziwig and his twin, Twitchit, they have some emotional problems. They were abandoned and they're a little insecure. As you can see, I think you saw Fezziwig was a little insecure. So they have a little bit of territory issues and insecurities. So anyway, it's a general healing prayer for my cats. And what I would do normally is when I would do something like this is I would first of all dress my candle in some way. And here I have some oil. This is some of the oil that I use for my spell candles normally. It's just sort of a general oil that I use. It has different things in there. I think I did a video on this, I'm not sure. And what I would do on my candle is initially, at least, I would take my oil, a little bit of oil, and on the top I can just rub a little bit of the oil around on the top of my candle. I could also put some in a dropper and drop a little bit down in there. If the candle was down further, I could do that. I just want to show you here, this is my cat. I have in this jar, I have cat whisker, which I collect. I'm not going to use any of this in this ritual, but I do from time to time collect those. Not harvested from cats, found and saved. But cat claw I do use, and I use cat claw a lot in rituals, because a cat claw has a lot of magical properties to me. It's a good protection, of course, obviously, but also for healing for cats, I like it because, cats use their claws to steady themselves, to get a grip on wherever they land, or to keep from falling, to keep from stumbling, to keep that firmness. And also, it's something that they carry with them that's very powerful and can use for their own protection and their own safety. So I like to include that in a ritual for cats. So I'm going to put a cat claw on the flame when I light it. And also I have some lavender here. We just take it from the garden, and lavender is really good for healing too. So I'm going to put I'm going to just sprinkle a little bit of lavender on the top of my candle, just like that, that's all. Okay, so, and then I'm going to light, when I have my incense lit, and I'm just going to light my candle. And then, I forgot to trim my wick. I hope that's not going to give me a problem. And see, now I can relight that. I can relight that from this tea light if I want to. And then what I usually do on my healing altar is I have a series of these little cards. I just wrote them, and I keep them in the drawer there on my altar. And what it does is my intention for different things. I also keep a card like that, something like that, on my prosperity altar, which is also another short little altar. And the reason being, anytime I can pull it out, or my husband can pull it out, and we can feed the spell. We can relight the candle and redress it a little bit, and put some fresh lavender on there, and say our intention over the flame. And in our case, this way, I usually add a claw to it, at least initially. Maybe afterwards I will just add maybe some incense, some lavender, or rosemary to the flame. I'll just stick it in the flame rather than tapping it on the so I can show you that too, how I do that. But anyway, I have this intention that I have written on the card, so whoever is doing the spell, today it'll be me, tomorrow maybe my husband will relight it and do it. And I just have a simple thing, and here I have, this one is actually written for a dog, but I can replace it and put it in for a cat. And I just have simply, Goddess, with your healing touch, bless these cats we love so much. And I will say specifically Goose and Pyewacket and Betty White and Twitchit and Fezziwig. God, with beasts as your domain, remove the sickness, heal the pain. And I will keep saying that as I put in things of my intention. So I will say, add a little bit of my incense, and I will say, Goddess, with your healing touch, bless these cats we love so much. God, with beasts as your domain, remove the sickness, heal the pain. Goddess, with your healing touch, bless these cats we love so much. God, with beasts at your domain, remove the sickness, heal the pain. Goddess, with your healing touch, bless these cats we love so much. God, with beasts as your domain, remove the sickness, heal the pain. Goddess, with your healing touch, bless these cats we love so much. God, with beasts as your domain, remove the sickness, heal the pain. Goddess, with your healing touch, bless these cats we love so much. God, with beasts as your domain, remove the sickness, heal the pain. So mote it be. I answered some of your questions that you had on spell work. Specifically the the what, when, and why of spell work, spell casting. I have quite a few videos on my channel here that deal with this subject, and I'm like I said before, I'm going to link some in the bottom down in the description box. If you're interested in a little more information, this is a good place for you to start down there. And then you can also go into my channel on the search. I believe in type in the search on my channel, just something to do with, what specifically you're interested in, whether you're interested in using candles, different kind of candles, or in spells, or prosperity spells, or building a prosperity altar, or whatever, binding, poppets. If you're interested in poppets, just put the term in the description box, and it should help you a little bit find it. Or you could just sit down and watch every video I've made for the last, how many years I've been on here? I'm not even sure. I think it's 6 or 7 years I've been on here. I don't even know. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. As always, I am Rebecca the Good Wife, and I wish you blessings.